Alright, we just have to remember the good and bad numbers. Okay, so what do we got here? What was his approach to approximating the area of the circle here?
Well, what he did was you have your Cartesian plane and you have a bunch of lattice points on it.
That's fine. Why don't you just leave them in the in just the one quadrant, because then we'll get the idea.
Oh yeah. Then you draw your circle with the radius. You can call it maybe radius 4.
All right.
So that would go to here. So we have a circle with radius 4. And what we do to approximate it is we look at the number of lattice points that are inside it.
Okay.
I guess, or on the circle. So we can count one.
Yeah, so it's interesting whether you should count the ones on the circle or not. Do you know? Did you notice one where he didn't do that?
I didn't see for sure, but I mean, as it gets bigger and bigger, it matters less and less whether you have a couple extra lattice points.
Okay, so right, that's a good observation. As you get bigger, it matters less and less if you count those, and we'll talk about that for sure. But when he was doing his sums up to 49, he actually stopped at 47.
Okay.
Did you notice that? No. Okay.
I didn't see that.
So yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't pay close enough attention to whether you're supposed to count the ones on the circle or not. But you can do either one. It's fine.
So the reason why you can do this is because each of these lattice points is the center of a square with radius 1. And that corresponds to 1 unit of area, or yeah, 1 square unit.
Yeah.
So we continue like this. And so I guess for each quadrant, there are going to be 3, or there's 4 sets of 3 on the axis, so we can only count these, so we don't overcount.
Yeah.
So total there are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
12, and then times 4
Yeah.
is 48.
Okay, and the area of this circle is 4.
Times, so the radius is 4, so pi times 16.
About 50.
So with the lower squares, it isn't a great approximation, the lower radius squares, because there are parts that stick out,
Uh-huh.
and these parts here, but with the higher, when you get really, really big, it becomes a really good approximation.
Yeah, so it's interesting to talk about why. So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
We can imagine the circle getting larger and larger here, and we're approximating it with these 1 by 1 squares. You studied calculus last year, and we found areas by approximating with rectangles there. Here we're approximating with squares. What's different about the approximation here
Well,
than what we normally do in calculus?
normally in calculus you only have like kind of a direction of your rectangles. So I don't know if I can draw that, but like you have a curve and then you have all your rectangles kind of just going in one. Like all your overcounting or undercounting is just going to be like here.
Okay.
Here you kind of have overcounting from all sides.
All right. Okay, so that's one thing
So,
that's different.
You have like this and this and this, and then it kind of goes all the way around.
All right. There's another thing that's pretty different as this circle gets bigger. versus as the approximation gets bigger here. So how do we make this approximation with these rectangles better in calculus?
You make smaller rectangles.
Okay.
But here we're keeping, I guess we're keeping the size the same. So it's more like the relative error. I mean, your actual error is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I don't know that, but it might very well be.
Or at least you're having more things poking out and more things not covered.
Uh-huh.
But overall it's a better approximation just because it's bigger.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So what do you think? Why do you think this might, as the circle gets bigger, this approximation gets better and better?
I think because the area gets so large, I think the area will scale faster than the error that you have. So I think the error will matter less and less.
Okay, that's a very interesting and also correct observation. That is that's great intuition, and in fact, you can make that intuition precise, which is how you prove what's going on here. And your intuition is also correct. It's the error relative to the size is what's going on. So it's this count of the dots divided by the area. That ratio converges. Okay. But actually the difference between them, well, I don't know if it does converge or not. Probably not would be my guess. Actually.
Yeah, we're not really sure, but there's more difference to consider, I guess.
Yeah, but you can also imagine as the circle gets sort of infinitely large, the number of poking outs and poking ins ought to sort of average out.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, very good. Let's talk about the good and bad numbers now.